Okay, today we're going to learn about the grand staff. This is a grand staff. It is created by joining the treble staff and the bass staff with what we call a brace, this doohickey here, and a bar line, this guy right here. And you're going to see a lot of bar lines in between each measure, of course. Okay, now you're going to end up using everything above this line again as your key, as you're going to do on most of the worksheets here. These are the notes within the treble clef staff. So we have Every Good Boy Does Fine and Face, F-A-C-E, still there. But then we have a few other notes. These notes here are below the staff. They're below the staff because we do have notes on every instrument that will go lower than an E. We also have notes that will go higher than an F. G, A, B, C. Well, if you count backwards, E, D, and you can see it right here. And I want you to draw this just like I'm doing. And then C. Conversely, in the bass clef staff, we have all these notes here. Good boys do fine always. And then we have all cows eat grass. If we were to go above the staff, we would have A, B. If we kept going, we would have this. Add this thing here. It's called a ledger line. Add another one and put it on top. And let's go ahead and do one more. We'll go to E. 2 ledger lines. And just to show, you can do it just like that so you can see what note it is. Now, these notes here are the same. If you were to play this C on bass clef, it would sound the same as this C in treble clef. So they're in between the staves. And this is true of any grand staff. In the case of piano, we have D here and a D here. They're the same, E and E. They are also the same. Now the same can be said if you go backwards in the treble clef staff. So we're going to do this. C was on the line, so B will be just below the line. Draw your line so you can clearly see it, because to answer the questions below, way down here in number 3, you're going to need to have this key. And let's go one more. So we'll go 2 ledger lines just like we did in the bass clef. And we're going to put it splitting the second ledger line. That will be an A. So those 2 notes would sound the same as well. There you go. Now you have your key. Now we have one other thing to do. I want you to circle this guy here, put an arrow to it, and write this word. Ledger, and one more word. Line. Ledger lines extend the staff. They extend the staff. So if we only had 5 lines and 4 spaces, then our range would be very limited. Range meaning the highest note and the lowest note that we can play. And of course, if you look on your fingering charts of whatever instrument you play, you will find that we play significantly more notes than the notes inside of the staff. Okay, now we have this done, our key. We can answer these questions down here. Number 1 is very simple. You're going to practice by tracing the braces. Braces are these. Know that they're called braces and know that they join staves. Now the bar lines, and these are found at the beginning and ends of measures, and then the clefs. And then of course we have our treble clef and our bass clef. And all the same rules that you did earlier in the earlier worksheets apply here to drawing them. And you're simply going to trace that. Practice it 3 more times, put a check here. And we'll go on to number 2. Number 2, you're going to take the ones you learned here and apply it down here. So create grand staff by adding braces. Mine doesn't look as fancy as theirs. Then bar lines. And last, clefs. So there's our treble. And we'll do our bass. Put our 2 dots. And you can tell that is a treble clef and a bass clef, and it is clearly a grand staff. So it looks like the one above. You're going to do that 3 more times and then put a check next to it. Number 3, this is the hardest part of this whole worksheet. Write the letter name for each note. Well, you have to look up here to find that. So this first one is part of the treble clef staff, and it is 1 ledger line below. Let's look up here and see which one that is. Treble clef, and it is 1 ledger line below. It is a C. And of course, we're going to use capital letters when we write that. There you go. Next one's on the top line. We don't even need to use our chart up top to answer this one. Good boys do fine always. That is an A. Next one is one ledger line above the bass clef staff. So we're going to have to look up here. Bass clef, one above. That is also a C. Okay. So I put my answer down here. Next one, every good boy does. We don't need to use our chart for that. That's a no-brainer. Next one note below the treble clef staff. There it is. One note below. What is that? That is a D. So let's go back down again. And our next one, it looks like we have, it's on top of the first ledger line in the bass clef. On top of the first ledger line in the bass clef. So let's go back up top and see if we can find that. Bass clef, first ledger line on top. And you can see if we didn't do this, then we wouldn't be able to answer these. So that's going to be a D. We get 3 Ds in a row. Next, we have below the first ledger line. So we'll have to go back up top, and it's in treble clef. So find our treble clef. There's the first ledger line. One below, it is a, that's right, it's a B. Let's go right back down. Put a B here. And the last one, right on top of the staff. Well, if good boys do fine always, count up the alphabet, A, B. That is a B. One last thing, and it doesn't say to do this on your chart here, but we're going to do this for us, okay? We're going to use a circle for notes that sound the same, but are on different clefs. So there's one here. This C is the same as this C. So I'm used a circle for that one. And you can see, looking up top here, that C is the same as that C. So the note's here in the middle that we did. That's how we know that they're the same note. This one's too high. This one, this D, and I'm going to use a triangle for this one. You're going to draw a triangle around this D because these are the same. So that shows us that you know that they're the same. So you can see up here, this D is the same as this D. Here's treble clef below the staff. Here is bass clef above the staff on top of the first ledger line. And there they are, the exact same thing. We got one more here. We're going to do a square for this one. This B will also be the same as this B. So we put a square around it to show that they are the same sounding. And of course, you can look back at your chart for that one as well. Here's our B's, one ledger line below the staff, and just on top of the staff. Notice it's closer to bass clef than it is to treble clef. And that will do it for the grand staff.